Well, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Here we are again. Here we are again on WSRadio.com. And it's time for Ether Tale Radio Theater. I'm your host, Scott Paulson. Hey, it's still National Poetry Month. And my favorite local poet is here, Christina Continelli. And that's her sound check. Her giving an ovation into the microphone. I'm so glad you're here, Christina, so that we can feature a real, live, living poet instead of the public domain things that I'm stuck with. Yes, thank you, Miss Christina Continelli, a real, live, living poet.
Well, thank you for having me.
And that is a perfect sound check for you for this evening because, as usual, we are the not ready for airtime players, and that was your official sound check for the evening. So tonight we're going to hear some works from Christina Continelli. And today is indeed, this very day is also a Poem in Your Pocket Day. So after Christina's readings, I've got my pockets stuffed with public domain poems, and I'll be reading some of those. And then we'll do some computer-generated haiku because Peter Flynn and his son Liam are here. And they're going to do we're going to close out the show with some computer-generated haiku. And Liam also gave me one more story from Planet Sweatpants Universe. So we have to read it because he brought it in. But let's start with something divine. Poetry from Christina Continelli.
Hello. Okay. So the first one I'm going to read is called Mein Liebchen, and it was published in 2016 in an online journal called The Bees Are Dead. They do a lot of dystopian poetry and fiction.
And they were ready to embrace you.
They were. Strange lambs. On the bus rides and embankments, in the bars and pews, radiant, inaccessible, angelic, longing for irreparable solace, but to wipe the slate clean requires measurement in ounces, an exact requisition, floated on ice and permanent winter. We, nightlife, friend and fellow travelers, alone in this. Small femme reliquaries, smooth all corners and perfectly constructed. I don't understand she structures, so much glass and smoke and light. Men are cavernous, vast and unknowable. They walk to the edge of town and find slips of numbers, ephemera stuffed in the mouth of a golem. They comically cursed, a foothold in the underbelly. They pleasure obscene. I sit at the table, back to the door, a candle remnant, malleable and newly dark. Free, whatever that word means. Social, like a blade slipped between the scapula, breathless, the light crawling curlicues off scalp, some blessed misinterpretation. These people smell like things. Throw a brick into the night and listen for the bells. Okay.
Thank you, Miss Christina.
And I got a couple more. So, this is one that Scott asked me to write for a kind of a crow exhibit blackbird exhibit you were having at the library.
That's right, the Raven exhibit. We challenged poets to write a poem based upon items that we'd placed in an exhibit case. And Christina was the first to answer the challenge. And when people saw her poem, a lot of them declined to participate because it was too good. Your poem was too good, and you scared people away. Well, we had 3 or 4 participants, and that was a fun challenge and very rewarding for us to commission new poetry. And yes, so this is from that Quoth the Raven exhibit we did. I think it was back in 2015. I remembered like it was yesterday.
All right, this is called Still Life with Corvus and Dead Things. Snug in the greenery, feasting on lentils and olives, simple meter of feathers and busybody flies. Both black and glisten when the sun has no mercy on the pippin or the wasted crust or the bruised skin. snug with the lock and the keys, jangle like trickster guffaw, the collector against the smooth chiaroscuro shows off. All that it is, all that it will eat, has consumed against hourglass and bits of flesh and the wilt of leaf.
Thank you, Miss Christina. Ladies and gentlemen, now you can see why other poets declined to participate after seeing that poem on display. And that poem was commissioned by the UC San Diego Library. And we will be returning in 2019 to a Raven-inspired day of poetry and prose. And that's going to be 2019 on October 7th, which is the death day of Edgar Allan Poe. So mark your calendars. I sound a little bit too cheerful, but I'm excited about it, and we'll display that poem yet again. And except we won't unveil it until after others have written some things, because we don't want to scare them off again with your excellent poetry.
Thank you. This is called "The Comfort of Strangers." This was published in Blast Furnace it's a journal out of a university in Pittsburgh. Back in 2015. Boil the carcass for several hours with the leftover onion skins and carrot ends. Disregard, reward patience. Allow the drizzle to gather outside instead and let the aches and pains remote in from another planet. The future, bleak and exhilarating. My body, a coal, ashen, still warm. Home is states of relative unity. Home has been sitting on it. I'm sorry. Ooh, I messed up there.
Well, hey, start from the beginning.
I'll start from the top of the stanza.
Thank you.
Home is states of relative unity. Home has been sitting on its ass for 30 years waiting for a hero when it was the one that should have been heroic. Digress and wake. Awake in the dark every morning. Steal oneself. Make a note of it. Head a mess of moldering leaves and 14 crows perched on a wire, a murder like unprecedented silence. Up with the start and follow the current through the wall to find a better place to be appreciative. Home is a machete hidden under the bed. Home is surrounded by pixelated things and Ponzi schemes. Never enough money and several thousand of my neighbors running from a cloud of tear gas. Rise. I walk the floorboards in love, give my plaintive regards to the Ronettes and Nina Simone, and plan a winter garden. It rains outside, and the San Francisco Bay sucks in its gut to pose for photos. The windows splinter and admonish. Everyone is so far away. They will need mittens, scarves, chemical hand warmers, sleeping bags, beans and bread. Home is a sun that gives no heat. Home humors me by saying, everything's going to be all right. Home is also a warm cup of coffee on a back porch Saturdays and sudden appearance of a friend bearing a cheap bottle of wine. I write this from a cubicle built on a landfill, a precarious little bird nest. Outside the window, there are sundry examples of ugly public art. 5 acacia trees, 2 cyclists, a sandwich shop, and a dead unicorn resting in the lap of a weeping virgin. To the west lies a city of castles, a land of plenty. Home is the roar, the voices of several thousand neighbors, a river coursing through the gorges, every street and alley, a massive reverberation, a poltergeist.
You obviously wrote that back when you were living in...
I was living in the Bay Area at the time.
Yes.
That's actually older. It was the reference to the tear gas is when they had the Occupy movement in Oakland,
yes.
And they had people getting tear gassed.
And I think you lived in the Bay Area twice, I think, right? And this was from the first time you were there.
No, second time. First time was in the mid-'90s, and I lived in San Francisco. And then second time I lived for about 10 years, from 2004 to 2013, something like that, yeah.
Well, we're loving having you here in San Diego.
Anyway, okay, so we're going to move on, and I'm going to read. This is a poem called 4 Days. And I read this at Michael Clam does Poetry and Art Festival in Balboa Park. And when I first moved back to San Diego after living in Oakland for 10 years, I read this there. And people really liked it a lot. And so I'm going to share it with you. 4 days of fever with Mariana depression and coughing bricks like singing with dogs and monkeys, when cold dribble of underarm trickles down to the places where you keep your tattoos, and edge of underwear elastic chafes like brimstone pink belly. So, where is your chilly, bottomless eye? Why is everything so close as to remove you like Saturday house cleaning, like have-nots from Chamber of Commerce meetings? Where have you kept your idealist packets and smiling pearlies with Girl Scout appliques and belief in first sight love, and unicorn fetishist with virgin albatross around pretty necks and feet like goslings and chickpea ovaries, a gentle euphemism? Where and when did your punk rock die? 4 days of flu-like carnival, sniffling and hoary like singing fertility rites in divorce court with the ambulance chasers and astrologers. Perry Mason and Della Street. But the good news is you don't fear the dreams of being submerged anymore. They're just annoying like the snores of lovers. How long has it been since you've known the touch of another human being and wilted to encircle raised hairs and unwashed, sweet and sour, stretched leg ache to cast off your trills and whistles to flash areola into the dark traveling from under the door, and you bird-like as small scratchings at your walls and coarse renderings of old dreams merging with hollowed myths and dirty limericks to become squirming fluid to tumble into the salt of your mouth. 4 days of sodden narcolepsy, while furies wrench beads of sick dew from your temples and singing without voice, just warm air like sea breeze and desert, or all the places that look the same as the last place you remember smiling or kissing or enjoying a really good donut. Places you revert to infancy and memories of your parents launching balloons on some birthday or armistice day while you clapped tiny palms to Sousa and threw your pail to the rushing waters. You curse your ability to daydream and feel the theft of your ancestors, the calm that never came, and the bend of marks and prophecies of internal combustion engines have left cold drops of condescension and bitter fuel to the rolling of your gait and sting of human need, gathering pieces of squeaky cogs and oily movement in spite of rust flaking away and being made as well as you could be made. 4 days of heavy breath and silence black as night sky, no light singing through the panes, not a ripple in the curtains weighted with dust and pet hair and summer heat, and you with jellied flesh and fever, and you with long, lonesome, tiny palms clapping on some birthday or armistice day, and you with the giddy thrill of antediluvian caress. Park yourself next to the window to hear the rush of your next-door neighbor's television. Next door, there's a smell of onions frying, and tinny voices of war pigs, and tinny voices of hard times, and tinny voices of impotent celebrity for 4 whole days.
When did you write that one?
I wrote this one, this one's a little bit older. I wrote this when I was still attending grad school up in San Francisco, in Oakland. Probably, maybe 2007.
Yes. Yeah, that one felt different than the others.
Yeah, probably because it's a little older.
Yes.
Yeah.
I enjoyed it very much.
Yes.
Thank you, Christina Continelli, for being a living poet willing to visit us tonight and read.
Yay!
We appreciate it. Because the rest of the evening is all public domain with a little computer-generated things here and there. And yes, there's the computer where we're acting up just a tiniest bit, courtesy of the voicings of our good colleague who will be introduced later. Now, Christina, our next big event with you is in 2019, so you got plenty of time to get prepared, and it's going to be another. It doesn't have to be exactly raven-themed, but it will be ravenous. It will be ravenous. And then that's going to be on October 7th, 2019, in the Seuss Room of Geisel Library. We're marking the death day of Edgar Allan Poe with some ravenous prose and poetry. We're considering making it be 100 words, but maybe we shouldn't. What do you think? That's too short? Do you think?
I think 100 words is workable. I think a lot of people would be comfortable with that.
We have time. We have time to think about it. And I'm counting on your support and your advice and your participation. A round of applause from our large studio audience of 2 people, 3 including the poet. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, Christina Continelli, and you'll be hearing from her in the future. And you'll recall that she's written some wonderful radio dramas for us that we performed here on Ether Tale Radio Theater. And we're going to make sure that the website is up to date and the blog up to date so that you can click on some of those. Those were some of our best performances because I think they were some of the best written things we did. Thank you, Ms. Christina Continelli.
Oh, thank you for having me.
So I'll see you in 2019, if not sooner.
Tomorrow.
Yes, tomorrow at work. We both work at Geisel Library, and as you know, Geisel in German means hostage. See you there. Now, as I mentioned earlier this evening, that yes, all month this month was National Poetry Month, but also all day today was Poem in Your Pocket Day, which is part of that National Poetry Month movement. And soon I'll be reading some public domain poems. But next, I wanted to read one of my favorites that's really appropriate for Ether Tale Radio Theater. It's a poem about the Pied Piper of Hamelin. And let's see if I can find it. Peter, could you cluck like a chicken while I look for it? Thank you. That is so appreciated. So appreciated, Peter. And that also acts as a wonderful walk off for Christina Continelli. Goodbye, Christina Continelli. Bye. Yeah. So I love this poem, The Pied Piper of Hamelin. And yes, Goethe had his chance at telling this tale, and yes, the brothers Grimm had their chance of telling the tale. But the first time the story was told was probably 1300. And there's proof of the story in a stained glass window in the Church of Hamelin, where they represented the story as an art piece. And the window was written about, and drawings were made of it. The window doesn't exist. It fell to pieces in 1660, but there are plenty of references to the window and artist drawings of the window showing this. In German it was the Rattenfänger von Hamelin. And the population today of Hamelin is 56,000. But back in 1300, it was probably a lot less. And in fact, it was growing smaller and smaller because of the plague of rats. So here is my favorite poetical setting of the Pied Piper of Hamelin from Robert Browning. Hamelin Towns in Brunswick by famous Hanover City. The river Weser, deep and wide, washes its wall on the southern side. A pleasanter spot you never spied. But when begins my ditty, almost 500 years ago, to see the townsfolk suffer so from vermin was a pity. Rats! They fought the dogs and killed the cats and bit the babies in the cradles and ate the cheeses out of the vats and licked the soup from the cook's own ladles, split open the kegs of salted sprats, made nests inside men's Sunday hats, and even spoiled the women's chats by drowning their speaking with shrieking and squeaking in 50 different sharps and flats. At last, the people in a body to the town hall came flocking. "'Tis clear," cried they, "our mayor's a noddy. And as for our corporation, shocking to think we buy gowns lined with ermine for dolts that can't or won't determine what's best to rid us of our vermin." What's best to rid us of our vermin? You hope, because you're old and obese, to find in the furry civic robies, rouse up, sirs, give your brains a racking to find the remedy we're lacking, or sure as fate we'll send you packing. At this, the mayor and the corporation quaked with a mighty consternation. An hour they sat in council. At length the mayor broke silence. "For a guilder I'd my ermine gown sell. I wish I were a mile hence. It's easy to bid one rack one's brain. I'm sure my poor head aches again. I've scratched it so, and all in vain. Oh, for a trap, a trap, a trap." Just as he said this, what should hap at the chamber door but a gentle tap? "Bless us," cried the mayor. "What's that?" With the corporation as he sat, looking little through wondrous fat, nor brighter was his eye, nor moister than a too long open oyster, save when a noon his paunch grew mutinous for a plate of turtle green and glutinous. "Only a scraping of shoes on the mat. Anything like the sound of a rat makes my heart go pit-a-pat." "Come in," the mayor cried, looking bigger. And in did come the strangest figure. His queer long coat from heel to head was half of yellow and half of red, and he himself was tall and thin, with sharp blue eyes, each like a pin, and light, loose hair, yet swarthy skin, no tuft on cheek nor beard on chin, but lips where smiles went out and in. There was no guessing his kith and kin, and nobody could enough admire the tall man in his quaint attire. Quoth one, It's as my great-grand, sir, starting up at the trump of doom's tone, had walked this way from his painted tombstone." He advanced to the council table, and, "Please, your honors," said he, "I'm able, by means of a secret charm, to draw all creatures living beneath the sun that creep or swim or fly or run after me, so as you never saw. And I chiefly use my charm on creatures that do people harm, the mole and toad and newt and viper, and people call me the Pied Piper." And here they noticed round his neck a scarf of red and yellow stripe, to match with his coat of the selfsame check, and at the scarf's end hung a pipe, and his fingers, they noticed, were ever straying, as if impatient to be playing on this pipe, as low it dangled over his vestures, so old-fangled. "Yet," said he, "poor piper as I am, in Tartary I freed the cham. Last June, from his huge swarms of gnats, I eased in Asia the nizam of a monstrous brood of vampire bats. And as for what your brain bewilders, if I can rid your town of rats, will you give me 1,000 guilders? 1,000 guilders. 50,000! That was the exclamation of the astonished mayor and the corporation. Into the street the piper stepped, smiling first a little smile, as if he knew what magic slept in his quiet pipe the while. Then, like a musical adept, to blow the pipe his lips he wrinkled, and green and blue his sharp eyes twinkled, like a candle flame where salt is sprinkled. And ere 3 shrill notes the pipe uttered, you heard as if an army muttered, and the muttering grew to a grumbling, and the grumbling grew to a mighty rumbling, and out of the houses the rats came tumbling. Great rats, small rats, lean rats, brawny rats, brown rats, black rats, gray rats, tawny rats, grave old plodders, gay young friskers, fathers, mothers, uncles and cousins, cocking tails and pricking whiskers, families by tens and dozens, brothers, sisters, husbands, wives, follow the piper for their lives. From street to street he piped advancing, and step for step they followed dancing, until they came to the river Weser, wherein all plunged and perished, save one who, stout as Julius Caesar, swam across, and lived to carry, as he the manuscript he cherished, to Ratland home his commentary, which was, "At the first shrill notes of the pipe, I heard a sound as of scraping tripe, and putting apples wondrous ripe into a cider press's gripe, and moving away of pickle-tub boards, and leaving a jar of conserve cupboards, and a-drawing the corks of train oil flasks, and a-breaking the hoops of butter casks, and it seemed as if a voice, sweeter far than by harp or by psaltery is breathed, called out, 'O rats, rejoice! The world is grown to one vast desultory. So munch on, crunch on, take your nunch on, breakfast, supper, dinner, luncheon!' And just as a bulky sugar puncheon, all ready staved, like a great sun shone glorious scarce an inch before me, just as methought it said, 'Come, bore me!' I found the waves are rolling o'er me." You should have heard the Hamelin people ringing the bells till they rocked the steeple. "Go," cried the mayor, "and get long poles, poke out the nests, and block up the holes, consult with carpenters and builders, and leave in our town not even a trace of the rats," when suddenly up the face of the Pied Piper perked in the marketplace with a "First, if you please, my 1,000 guilders." 1,000 guilders! The mayor looked blue. So did the corporation, too, for council dinners made rare havoc with claret, Mosel, Van de Grave, Hock, and half the money would replenish their cellar's biggest butt with Rhenish to pay this sum to a wandering fellow with a gypsy coat of red and yellow. "Beside," quoth the mayor with a knowing wink, "our business was done at the river's brink. We saw with our eyes the vermin sink, and what's dead can't come to life, I think. So, friend, we're not the folks to shrink from the duty of giving you something for drink, and a matter of money to put in your poke. But as for the guilders, what we spoke of them, as you very well know, was in joke. Besides, our losses have made us thrifty. 1,000 guilders, come, take 50. The piper's face fell, and he cried, "No trifling. I can't wait. Beside, I've promised to visit by dinner time Baghdad and accept the prime of the head cook's pottage, all he's rich in, for having left in the caliph's kitchen of a nest of scorpions no survivor. With him I proved no bargain driver. With you don't think I'll bait a stiver, and folks who put me in a passion may find me pipe after another fashion." "How?" cried the mayor. "How do you think I brook being worse treated than a cook? Insulted by a lazy ribald with idle pipe and vesture piebald. You threaten us, fellow. Do your worst. Blow your pipe there till you burst." Once more he stepped into the street, and to his lips again laid his long pipe of smooth straight cane, and ere he blew 3 notes, such sweet, soft notes as yet musicians cunning never gave the enraptured air, there was a rustling that seemed like a bustling of merry crowds, justling at pitching and hustling. Small feet were pattering, wooden shoes clattering, little hands clapping and little tongues chattering, and like foals in a farmyard when barley is scattering, out came the children running. All the little boys and girls, with rosy cheeks and flaxen curls, and sparkling eyes and teeth like pearls, tripping and skipping, ran merrily after the wonderful music with shouting and laughter. The mayor was dumb, and the council stood as if they were changed into blocks of wood, unable to move a step or cry to the children merrily skipping by, could only follow with the eye that joyous crowd at the piper's back. But how the mayor was on the rack, and the wretched council's bosoms beat, as the piper turned from the high street to where the Weser rolled its waters, right in the way of their sons and daughters. However, he turned from south to west, and to Koppelberg Hill his steps addressed, and after him the children pressed. Great was the joy in every breast. He never can cross that mighty top. He's forced to let the piping drop, and we shall see our children stop. When lo, as they reached the mountainside, a wondrous portal opened wide, as if a cavern was suddenly hollowed, and the piper advanced, and the children followed. And when all were in to the very last, the door in the mountainside shut fast. Oh, did I say all? No, one was lame and could not dance the whole of the way, and in after years, if you would blame his sadness, he was used to say, "It's dull in our town since my playmates left. I can't forget that I'm bereft of all the pleasant sights they see, which the piper also promised me, for he led us, he said, to a joyous land, joining the town, and just at hand where the waters gushed, and fruit trees grew, and flowers put forth a fairer hue, and everything was strange and new. The sparrows were brighter than peacocks here, and their dogs outran our fallow deer. And honeybees had lost their stings, and horses were born with eagle's wings. And just as I became assured my lame foot would be speedily cured, the music stopped, and I stood still and found myself outside the hill, left alone against my will, to go now limping as before, and never hear of that country more. Alas, alas for Hamelin! There came into many a burger's pate a text which says that heaven's gate opes to the rich at an as easy rate as the needle's eye takes a camel in. The mayor sent east, west, north, and south to offer the piper by word of mouth, wherever it was men's lot to find him, silver and gold to his heart's content, if he'd only return the way he went and bring the children behind him. But when they saw 'twas a lost endeavor, and piper and dancers were gone forever, they made a decree that lawyers never should think their records dated duly, if after the day of the month and year these words did not as well appear, and so long after what happened here, on the 22nd of July, 1376, and the better in memory to fix, the place of the children's last retreat. They called it the Pied Piper Street, where any one playing on pipe or tabor was sure for the future to lose his labor. Nor suffered they a hostelry or tavern to shock with mirth a street so solemn, but opposite the place of the cavern they wrote the story on a column, and on the great church window painted the same, to make the world acquainted how their children were stolen away. And there it stands to this very day. And I must not omit to say that in Transylvania there's a tribe of alien people who ascribe the outlandish ways and dress of their neighbors, lay such stress to their fathers and mothers having risen out of some subterraneous prison into which they were trepanned long time ago in a mighty band out of Hamelin town in Brunswick land, but how or why they don't understand. So, Willie, let me and you be wipers of scores out with all men, especially pipers. And whether they pipe us free from rats or from mice, if we've promised them aught, let us keep our promise. Well, that's a spooky poem. And And when you promise to pay somebody, I guess you should pay them. Oh, so that was a wonderful version of the Pied Piper of Hamelin from Robert Browning. Sometime we'll visit the Brothers Grimm version, and sometime when sometimes when we have a German speaker here, maybe we'll do the Goethe one. But it's so great to revisit some of these stories to see how they truly were told. And again, it's National Poetry Month, and again, today is actually Poem in Your Pocket Day, and I do have my pocket stuffed with poems. Let's see, I'll pull some out right here. Here's one that particularly suggested by the people involved with National Poetry Month. Here's one from Emily Bronte. She's no longer with us. She died in 1848. She was an English novelist and poet. We know her from Wuthering Heights, and we'll actually be reading a chapter from Wuthering Heights next month when we're talking about the great American Read. But here's a very short poem from her, Spellbound. The night is darkening round me. The wild winds coldly blow. But a tyrant spell has bound me, and I cannot go. The giant trees are bending, their bare boughs wade with snow, and the storm is fast descending, and yet I cannot go. Clouds beyond clouds above me, wastes beyond wastes below, but nothing drear can move me. I will not, cannot go. And that was Emily Bronte. We'll be talking about her next month. Yeah, it's Poem in Your Pocket Day. And all these poems easily fit in your pocket. They're short. Here's one that's... this was written by Hilda Doolittle, but when she published it, it didn't really have a title. They added a title later. She was part of a movement called the Imagist movement, where they reduced poems, extreme reduction, and moving away from late Romanticism and Victorianism. And later this poem was given a title, Oread, that's a mountain nymph. Whirl up, sea, whirl your pointed pines, splash your great pines on our rocks, hurl your green over us, cover us with your pools of fur. And that was for F-I-R, because it's trees, Peter. Oh, so I got another one in my pocket right here for Poem in My Pocket Day. Emily Dickinson, great American poet. And this one is entitled to be titled Wild Nights. Wild Nights. Wild nights, wild nights. Were I with thee, wild nights should be our luxury. Futile the winds to a heart in port, done with the compass, done with the chart, rowing in Eden, the sea. Might I moor tonight in thee? Oh my gosh, I need a cigarette, and I don't even smoke. Oh, here's one more in my pocket, Peter. Let's see. Holy Sonnet 14 by John Donne, D-O-N-N-E. He died in 1631. He was an English poet and cleric, a movement of metaphysical poets. I need to have a sip of something before I do this one, because this one is very holy. Batter my heart, three-personed God, for you as yet but knock, breathe, shine, and seek to mend, that I may rise and stand, o'erthrow me and bend your force to break, blow, burn, and make me new. I, like an usurped town to another do, labor to admit you, but oh, to no end. Reason Your viceroy in me should defend, but is captived and proves weak or untrue. Yet dearly I love you and would be loved fain. But am betrothed unto your enemy. Divorce me, untie or break that knot again. Take me to you, imprison me, for I, except you enthrall me, never shall be free, nor even chaste, except you ravish me. John Donne. Oh, here's another one. Out of my pocket for Poem in Your Pocket Day. Summer in the South by Paul Laurence Dunbar. He died in 1906, just at the age of 33. He was an African-American poet, novelist, and playwright. He was first published in his hometown paper in Dayton, Ohio, at the age of 16. And this poem from Paul Laurence Dunbar is titled Summer in the South. The oriole sings in the greening grove, as if he were halfway waiting. The rosebuds peep from their hoods of green, timid and hesitating. The rain comes down in a torrent sweep, and the night smell, warm and piney. The garden thrives, but the tender shoots are yellow-green and tiny. Then a flash of sun on a waiting hill, streams laugh that erst were quiet. The sky smiles down with a dazzling blue, and the woods run mad with riot. And yes, it's Poem in Your Pocket Today. Poem in Your Pocket Today. I mentioned that before, Peter. And I've got this one, and yet a different pocket. American poet Robert Frost, but he was published in England first, so they got the jump. But here's Robert Frost with his poem, Design. I found a dimpled spider, fat and white, on a white heel-all, holding up a moth like a white piece of rigid satin cloth. Assorted characters of death and blight, mixed ready to begin the morning rite, like the ingredients of a witch's broth. A snowdrop spider, a flower like a froth, and dead wings carried like a paper kite. What had that flower to do with being white, the wayside blue and innocent heel all? What brought the kindred spider to that height, then steered the white moth thither in the night? What but design of darkness to appall? If design govern in a thing so small? Oh, and in this other pocket for Poem in Your Pocket Day, from a Jamaican poet, a Jamaican writer and poet, part of the Harlem Renaissance, yet another great thing about the 1920s, which is a favorite decade of mine. A poem by Claude McKay, The Tropics of New York. Bananas ripe and green, and ginger root, cocoa in pods and alligator pears, and tangerines and mangoes and grapefruit, fit for the highest prize at parish fairs, sat in the window, bringing memories of fruit trees laden with low singing rills and dewy dawns and mystical skies in benediction over nun-like hills. My eyes go dim, and I could no more gaze. A wave of longing through my body swept, and, hungry for the old familiar ways, I turned aside and bowed my head and wept. Oh, well, that's fun for Poem in Your Pocket Day. And, I have a couple more, which I probably could do. But we want to end with some computer-generated haiku. So if you get Robot Boy, whose name is Tobor, which is robot spelled backwards, if he could come in, that would be wonderful. And I'll read one more poem from Edna St. Vincent Millay, while we get that computer put together. Edna St. Vincent Millay in 1923 won the Pulitzer Prize for Poetry, and she was the third woman to do it. So I'm going to read this one more poem, and then we're going to get that computer in here to talk to us. I believe it's silver, and I don't think I'm hiding it. But let's hear from Edna St. Vincent Millay. I will be the gladdest thing under the sun. I will touch 100 flowers and not pick one. I will look at cliffs and clouds with quiet eyes, watch the wind bow down the grass and the grass rise. And when lights begin to show up from the town, I will mark which must be mine, and then start down. I might have one more I can do before Tobor, the robot boy, comes in here with, let's see, which one? How about, this one's so heavy. Not that one. Not that one. We got to have a nice lead into Tobor. Okay, here's a poem from Jean Toomer, also, considered part of that Harlem Renaissance, although he was very resistant to the modernism of it. But nonetheless, he is associated with that wonderful 1920s time. Jean Toomer, and this poem is titled Storm Ending. Thunder blossoms gorgeously above our heads, great, hollow, bell-like flowers rumbling in the wind, stretching clappers to strike our ears, full-lipped flowers bitten by the sun, bleeding rain, dripping rain like golden honey, and the sweet earth flying from the thunder. So I hope that you had a poem in your pocket today. It was National Poem in Your Pocket Day. And gosh, I was wearing one of those Mexican wedding shirts with so many pockets. That's why I had so many. But it's time for a haiku. And, haiku has many rules, and many times the rules are broken. And it's these wonderful poems with roots from Japanese literature. And there's often a nature theme, and they're quite transcendent. And they tend to have a syllable structure of, 5-7-5. And we're going to have a computer-generated haiku with help from Tobor, our robot boy who's in the station today. So let's see if we can make one happen from this computer. Let's listen in, shall we? A haiku generated from our computer. The lights are blinking. Beep. Things are whirring.
Sunny afternoon. A modern chimpanzee looks in spite of the bear.
Heavy. Can the Tobor, our robot boy, can the computer generate yet another? And I wonder if the station microphone is picking it up.
I don't know. The engineer is looking quite disturbed.
We might end up reading them
Sunny
aloud.
afternoon. An infant chimpanzee looks because of the bear.
That was very deja vu, but slightly different.
It is just a coincidence. Randomly pick twice the same.
Sunny afternoon. A modern chimpanzee looks at the perfect bear.
That computer's going to keep on doing it till it gets it right. God bless it. God bless it.
So we try this one.
And here's yet a different program that Peter Flynn is willing to try.
I take no responsibility for any of this.
You should all.
Bakery Hillside Shallow Royal. Tiger feeds in spite of the bird.
Oh yes, wasn't necessarily the best reading. We should make you read it aloud, Peter. Is it still there for you to read?
Bakery Hillside. Shallow Royal. Tiger feeds in spite of the bird.
Heavy. I was supposed to read another entry from Sweatpants Universe, but I didn't time it yet. And gosh, we're so late on the time. Can I read it next time? I hope Tobor the robot boy doesn't malfunction and burn down the station.
I can have it read it really fast.
You want? Oh, you can make the computer read it really fast? Thank you. I accept, Tobor, the robot boy, to have the computer read Liam Flynn's latest Sweatpants Universe story as fast as it can.
You have stopped the robot uprising.
Thank goodness.
In its tracks.
Good evening from Planet Sweatpants and Sweatpants Universe. This week Hank got a new TV, DVD player, sound system, and upgraded all his home theater-related stuff. When he and his son Lenny went to Sweatpants Bike to buy the new home theater things, they stopped at Taco Sweatpants for an early lunch. They each ordered 2 pan and cheese burritos, 2 pan tostadas, 2 quesadillas, 2 pan tacos, and a large root beer. When they arrived at Sweatpants Bike, they headed straight to the home theater things and saw that someone left half of their cheeseburger behind one of the TVs. They made their purchases, and when they were on the way home, they got the flat tire. Hank pulled over to the side of the road to change the flat tire. Lenny decided to start playing with the spare tire while Hank was taking the flat tire off. When he was ready to install the spare tire, Lenny started drumming on and playing with the flat tire. When they got home, Hank found lots of food hiding behind the existing TV and yelled, "There's food behind the TV." He knew that Lenny did it because he was laughing and was the only person in the house who would do that. There were old burritos with long gray beards, mac and cheese with shaggy gray hair, sweatpants with talking pockets that appeared that they walked there by themselves, old slices of pizza with gray goatees, extremely squishy moldy oranges, and other funny and disgusting things. Hank then cleaned up the mess and installed the new TV. When he was switching out the sound system, he found food ground into the existing speakers and exclaimed, "There's food ground into the speakers. Why is there food ground into the speakers?" After installing the new speakers and hooking them up to the new TV, he was working on putting in the new DVD player when he discovered a cookie in it, more old burritos with long gray beards behind it, being smeared all over the top of the DVD player, and more unidentifiable old food behind it. After hooking everything up to the new TV, he booted everything up the first time and decided to move the furniture around a little bit. He looked in between the couch cushions and found lots of food squished in between the cushions. He was absolutely disgusted by what he just saw. When he moved the couch, he found tons of old food stuffed under the couch. There was too much to list, but there was at least 8 old burritos with long gray beards, 2 pounds of mac and cheese with shaggy gray hair, 8 additional old burritos with 8 green eyes, enough old slices of pizza with gray goatees to make a whole pizza, and much more. Hank then scolded Lenny in a funny manner using a bunch of fancy words, then lectured him in the same manner afterwards. For dinner later that day, Hank and Lenny went to the OHI, and Lenny ground food into the carpet for the cleaning guy to deal with. Then the next week, Hank and Lenny started taking a drawing class together, and on the first day of 10 classes, they were both sleeping. On the next class, they both were making faces and funny sounds. On the third class, they were fooling around. On the fourth day, they were eating loudly, playing with their food, chewing with their mouths open, and talking with their mouths full. On the last 5 classes, they were doing all the funny things possible that you could do in class. And whenever the teacher called on them, they said, "Reporting for duty, boss." The end. Make sure you tune in next time.
Bravo, Tobor, the robot boy, and Liam Flynn for helping put off the robot apocalypse for just one more night. Thank you. So yes, this was National Poetry Month, and we're so happy here on Ether Tale Radio Theatre to feature Christina Continelli, Liam Flynn, Tobor the Robot Boy, and many others. Thank you, Peter, for allowing Liam to be with us this evening. And when we see you next month, the month of May, we're going to be reading book chapters from the Great American Read that KPBS is sponsoring. 100 books they're suggesting that Americans look at once again and eventually choose from that list of 100 the book that actually would be like a National Book Club book. And we'll read chapters from some of those 100 suggestions. Thank you again so much for joining us here on Ether Tale Radio Theatre.
Hi, Daniel.
I sure look forward to seeing you in the month of May with some book chapters of interest. And Melanie Peters will be with us, and Ryan Simmons will be with us. And, probably not Christina Continelli because she's too expensive. She charges a very high rate. Peter Flynn will be there. Hopefully the Flynn children will be here. And we look forward to seeing you. Thank you again for joining us, everybody. Thank you so much. And good night.
Bye.
Good night from Ether Tale Radio Theatre. .com. Thank you.
Attention coaches, authors, speakers, and business owners. Please pay close attention to what I'm about to say if you want to secure massive visibility fast and generate thousands of highly qualified leads without spending a dime on advertising or marketing. The easiest way to make this happen is to appear as a guest on the world's most popular podcast. We recently came across an awesome resource that provides detailed contact information for 240 new media influencers who are looking for guests just like you. It's called the Ultimate Directory, and for a limited time, you can get the preview edition of the directory absolutely free. That's right, for free. It's time for you to get the visibility you and your business deserve and connect with the world's leading icons of influence who can make you famous with the push of a button. Get your free preview edition of the Ultimate Directory right now at www.myultimatedirectory.com. That's myultimatedirectory.com.
You were born to do one amazing thing, but most people spend a lifetime trying to identify what it is. If you're in a job you don't like or are unemployed, if you're in a state of transition or just can't shake that nagging feeling that you were meant and made to do something extraordinary, then the Reinvention Workshop is exactly what you need. Led by award-winning self-help author Steve Olsher, the Reinvention Workshop will forever change your life. The Reinvention Workshop takes you step by step through Steve's proven formula that has helped so many people get on the right path and clear about what they were born to do. Take the first step to realizing the life you deserve and desire by visiting thereinventionworkshop.com today. No more delays. No more denial. Reconnect with your true self. Learn to live with purpose and conviction and become who you were born to be. The world is waiting for you. What are you waiting for? Log on to thereinventionworkshop.com today. That's thereinventionworkshop.com.
Too much to do? Not enough time to get it done? Call on the experts at Another 8 Hours for your business support needs. By partnering with Another 8 Hours, we allow you to focus on the more important matters, like being in front of your clients, doing what you do best, rather than being stuck at a desk poring over paperwork, rummaging through emails, returning phone calls, and struggling to get everything done by yourself. Meanwhile, your family and social life are going down the drain. Go to another8hours.com or call 8 more hours. That's 866-734-6877.
Education, industry experts, back to the basics. Is your company using the Internet of Things to its fullest potential? Enlist the Peggy Smedley Institute and its team of experts to create a customized plan for how to apply the IoT to your specific needs. Learn everything you need to know to achieve tangible business outcomes in today's digital economy. Contact us at 630-933-0844. That's 630-933-0844 or visit learnitiot.com.